Well, hello everyone. It's the teenage, and I am here today with week 6 of Minimize to Maximize 7-week reset. Can you believe we're already on week 6? And today the topic is decluttering your obligations and spending. So, in case you're new to the reset, this reset is based on 2 books. One is this is the main book, 7: An Experimental Mutiny Against Excess by Jen Hatmaker, and the other one is Declutter Your Mind: How to Stop Worrying, Relieve Anxiety, and Eliminate Negative Thinking by S.J. Scott and Barry Davenport. So we're kind of using a chapter from here and a chapter from here every week that go together to simplify one area of our life at a time, temporarily, for just a week for each topic. And we're doing this in order to make more room in our life for other things, things that may be more of a priority for you. But as life goes, we just get stuck in a rut doing something a certain way. And then before you know it, we've developed some bad habits. Week 1, we reduced food. Week 2 was clothing. We had 7 items of clothing for 7 days. Week 3 was possessions. Week 4 was media. Week 5, last week, was conservation. And I'm curious to know how that went for everyone. If you were able to find some new habits to adopt that are green habits. And I'm here to tell you a little bit about how my my simplification of conservation went. And so, I like to make things, create things. So I decided to go with a lot of products that are natural and could save us not only money, but help the environment as well and be better for us. And I came across this thing called soap nuts. Who has heard of soap nuts? I am 52 years old and I never heard of soap nuts. It's a kind of a berry, and it comes here. I got a 2-pound bag of this stuff, of the soap nuts to try out. And they last a long time. Now, notice this says it's a natural laundry detergent, and it can do 330 loads from this one bag. I'll just show you what some soap nuts look like. All right, so they look like this. They're like kind of waxy looking outer part. They're mostly shells, because the shell part is the part that makes the soap. And so most of them are like in two pieces. Some of them are whole. Whoops, some of them are whole. These have been de-seeded, so the inner parts have been removed, because the inner parts aren't for this, don't make the soap. It's the outer shell. And I mean, they don't smell great, but they're not hardly smelly. And when you use them as soap, the soap doesn't smell bad. It doesn't make your stuff smell bad. So how you use them is, all you have to do some laundry is you put like 5 or 6 of these into a little muslin bag, little drawstring bag, and tie it up. It's like a little tiny bag, and throw that into your washing machine, and it can do multiple loads of laundry. We have used one for, I think, like 6 loads of laundry, and this week, and it worked out great. The blankets are so much fluffier and softer with this compared to what we were using before, which was a commercial laundry detergent and dryer sheets. Now, I also made some homemade dryer sheets. Now, this didn't use the soap nuts. This used just vinegar and essential oils, And I took one of Scotland's old shirts that's too small, like a t-shirt, and cut it into little strips like this. And so, you know, about the size of maybe a dryer sheet. And just fold it up, put it in the jar, and then poured over it some white vinegar with some essential oils in it. A little vinegary at first, but once it goes in your dryer, the vinegar smell goes away, and it just leaves your laundry really fresh. However, I also read that with the soap nuts, you don't even need the dryer sheets really. They're just to add some that essential oil smell to it. And these reduce the static cling. Now, also, I boiled some berries in a pot of water, and I found different articles with different ratios of water to soap nuts. So I don't think it really matters, but I made a big batch of that stuff, and then I made a cleaner for the counter. So I mixed some of that soap nut mix with some white vinegar and some essential oils to make a spray for cleaning the counter and stuff to replace like Pine Sol. And I made a shampoo. It's supposed to make a really good shampoo. And you can see my hair isn't quite dry, but it looks pretty good oh, it smells good. So what I did for the shampoo was I took some of that soap nut water after boiling the soap nuts, and I after it cooled, I put in some essential oils. I used rosemary because rosemary is real good for your hair and your scalp. It makes hair grow. So I used rosemary, some tea tree oil, and some spearmint because the rosemary and the tea tree oil weren't smelling that great, quite honestly. So I added in a bunch of spearmint to make it smell minty. And so then I used it as a shampoo, and I just simply put it in a little spray bottle and sprayed it all over my hair, and then, you know, washed it like that. It doesn't make a lot of suds because it doesn't have the chemicals that make suds, but it did a great job on my hair. My hair and my scalp feel really clean. And also, supposedly, you don't need a conditioner. Now, my hair does have some color processing in it, and so it's a bit dry. But it really wasn't very, you know, any frizzier than when I use shampoo and conditioner. So like commercial shampoo and conditioner. So I normally put a little bit of like anti-frizz product in my hair to keep it from being you know, real fluffy and frizzy. So I did put a little bit of that in there today, but no more than normal. I mean, it's really smells good, smells really clean, feels good. So I do recommend I'm recommending soap nuts. And so that's not a particular brand. That's what it is, soap nut berries. And you can find these on Amazon. They have different vendors selling them. And I recommend trying it out because there's so many uses. You can also use it in your garden. It's supposed to be really good for your plants. So those were some of my big takeaways from the environmental week. Oh, also I wanted to share with you, I made some natural dyes out of coffee, tea, and then some of the herbs. So I used hibiscus, makes like a red herb, and on certain papers it turns into like a dark purple, and some things it stays red. And then I also used some blue butterfly pea flowers to make blue dye. And then, what was there anything else? Oh yeah, some turmeric to make a yellow dye. And anyway, I tea stained and otherwise stained some paper. So look at these. Aren't these cool? Yeah. So I stained these papers to make some journals. I also stained some white lace to make a colored laces. And on the lace, it really held the color. So for instance, that hibiscus didn't change color on the lace. It stayed red, and that was kind of cool. So here's some examples of the paper. It's just regular copy paper. And I made like, anyway, it's pretty. All right. So all kinds of natural things we can do, help out the environment instead of buying, processed cleaning products and all. But that's enough about last week's dealio. Let's talk about this week. This week we're on month 6 in this book, and we're on part 2 in the Declutter Your Mind book. So in month 6, Jen decided she was going to focus on her spending habits, and this is really to bring awareness of what you're spending money on and to help prioritize your spending, right? So you're gonna, and quite honestly, for 1 week, you remember she did this for a month at a time. For 1 week, this is not, I don't think, that much of a challenge, depending on how you execute it. So I would suggest just making it challenging for yourself if 7 isn't enough. So what the challenge is to select 7 vendors to pay for the week. And so that means well, let me just give you Jen's choices. So I'll just put those up there. So she chose the farmer's market, the gas station, online bill pay, kids school, limited travel fund, emergency medical, and Target. Oh, Target department stores. So this can be challenging if you spend money with a lot of vendors, with a lot of different stores or online payees. And what I would suggest is a carve out. So let's do it like this. Limit spending to 7 vendors for 7 days, unless that's not challenging enough. But carve out for rent, utilities, debt, the things that you are already obligated for. Don't count those because we don't want anyone to be late on their payments and that kind of thing. But this applies to new spending. So if you need to go out and buy groceries or gas or what have you, clothes, something like that. And you know how you can't really count Amazon as one vendor because there's a lot of individual vendors. Every time you're spending money on Amazon, it's going to an individual vendor on Amazon. So you have to count each one of those separately. Same for eBay and Etsy and Facebook Marketplace. You can't count the platform as a vendor. It would be the vendors behind the platform. So that makes it a little bit harder for people like me that shop a lot on Amazon. So I'm like, oh, that's easy. I choose Amazon. That's all I need. Do all my shopping there. But if you're choosing each individual vendor that you're shopping with, then it makes it a little bit more challenging. I'll say that. And so let's just talk a little bit about, I'm going to read an excerpt from the book about, why that this is impactful. Excuse me. I am still struggling with the coughing from that cold that I've had for 3 or 4 weeks now. You know how sometimes a cough will linger and linger and linger, and I think with the spring starting to come on, that is bringing up maybe some allergies and stuff as well that makes it harder to get over that. All right, so from page 254 in the 7 book, she talks about she gives some statistics about discrepancies in spending of what maybe we value versus what hypothetically would be more ethical to value. and this book is not a brand new book, so I don't know how old these statistics are. They're probably pretty old. Annual U.S. spending on cosmetics, $8 billion. That's a lot of money on makeup. Basic education for all global children, $6 billion. So we spend $2 billion more in the U.S. on cosmetics than for education for all the kids in the world. That's a discrepancy she wanted to point out. Annual US and European spending on perfume, $12 billion. That's a lot of perfume. Whoa. Clean water for all global citizens, 9 billion. So we're spending 3 billion more on perfume than in the US and Europe than global clean water. Although I think water should be free because you got to have that to live. Annual US and European spending on pet food, $17 billion. Well, we got to feed the pets. Reproductive health for all women, 12 billion. So she's saying we spend 5 billion more on pet food than reproductive health for all women. That does seem like a big gap there. However, have you seen the price on fancy feast lately? It's like really expensive for a case of food. But this is just showing that our priorities as consumers may be a little skewed. So inequalities in consumption are stark. She says globally, 20% of the world's people in the highest income countries account for 86% of total private consumption expenditures. So 20% of the people buying 86% of the goods. And the poorest 20% only buy 1.3% of the goods. So this again is kind of bringing attention to the discrepancies in income and spending habits across the world for people from the richest nation. So part of this book is she's trying to bring social consciousness into the spending so that we're making choices that don't just benefit us personally for the latest trends and fads, but maybe we should give more thought about how we're spending our income. And also, think about creative ways this week of how to maybe repurpose something or do something yourself that normally you get someone else to do for you. And she has an example here on that previous page where on day 18 of her thing, her son needed a haircut. And she's like, Supercuts isn't on my list of vendors. So what am I going to do? She goes, you're getting a haircut. Supercuts isn't an approved line item. So her husband, Gavin, got the shears out and he's going to cut his son's hair himself, takes him out to the driveway. 10 minutes later, all good feelings were gone. 40 times shorter than he wanted and fairly wonkety. Gavin went from shaggy soccer cool to boot camp special. So maybe not fair to try it out on the 7th grader, but I cut my own hair. And I know it doesn't look that great, but I cut my own hair. I color my own hair. I do my son's hair. Sometimes I do my husband's hair. I don't have any professional training in hair cutting. I just figured out how to do it. And you know how much money I saved on haircuts, especially for women's haircuts and styling services. I'm saving hundreds and hundreds of dollars a year doing it myself. So you can start thinking about what kind of things you could save money on by doing it yourself instead of outsourcing it. Repurposing things, making your own stuff rather than going and buying it somewhere. Those are ways you can save money yourself, and then think about how you're spending that. And so that kind of brings me to the Declutter Your Mind book and the second part of our challenge. In this book, the author talks about core values. And so let me find this. So he says, one of the simplest ways to eliminate mental clutter and live a more fulfilling life is to define your values and guiding principles for your life, because your core values can serve as a measuring stick for all of your choices and decisions in life, right? That makes sense. We want to try to live by our values. We want to try to align to who we are at soul level. I've been saying that for years. And that's something that um, we don't all do, but this is an opportunity to look and see if the way we're spending our money aligns up to the way that we feel about spending money, right? What are our beliefs around that? So what the author suggests is to identify your core values and ask yourself, how can I better honor each value, not just with spending, but in all ways, and clarify your life priorities, like how you want to spend your time and energy and money. So all of those things. And then let's see, he has a kind of a list of questions on page 49 that can help with that. How much time per day do you feel you waste on activities unrelated to your core values? How much how are you spending money unconsciously? How are you interacting with the people you care about unconsciously? How do you make career decisions or spend most of your day? How do you spend how much time do you spend worrying about how you should spend your time and money? And what tasks and obligations and relationships are you allowing in your life unconsciously? So these are kind of deep digging kind of questions that you can use when you're um, looking at those things. And then using your values and priorities as guides, you can write a vision. He suggests you can write a vision about how you how you'd want to live your life. How do you maybe you're not living in that way, but in the best case scenario, how would you like to see yourself living your life, and like define in each part of your life what that would look like. And so that's a really interesting way to think about it. So on the second half of this week's challenge, I challenge you to identify your personal core values and maybe beliefs as well, and how you're think about how spending in this case relate how your spending habits relate to your core values. Do they line up? Do they not line up? Do you want them to line up more? And so that's kind of the second part of this week's challenge. So anyway, let me know how you feel about the spending challenge, and what are some of your takeaways? What are some of your key takeaways from doing the exercise on the core values? Because I think that's always something we should revisit from time to time, is who we are, and are we living like who we think we are or who we want to be? All right. Well, I send all of my love and appreciation to you, and good luck on this week's challenge. Bye.